Before we get into the video, shout out to our sponsors Subside clothing brand. Subside is a new, up-and-coming clothing brand established in Bristol that is looking to add something different with their clean designs that celebrate their roots. You can find the link to all their social medias in the description of this video. From the Terrace Podcast and Subside clothing brand, it's a match made in heaven. Support the boys, support the grind, shop Subside. Hello and welcome back to the From the Terrace Podcast and to another edition of Champ Talk. Me and Regan are back talking all good things Championship and also bad things, because Regan, I'm ready to talk about one bad thing and one particular football club and one particular establishment called the English Football League that is starting to get rather on my nerves. Of course, we are starting with Swansea City 2, Middlesbrough 1 at the Liberty. And Regan, Swansea, you can say on the good side of some interesting decisions of late. What do you make of them at the moment, and what do you make of these said decisions?
They're a disgrace. There's no other ways about them. They're ruining the championship. No, it's just luck. It's just a hell of a lot of luck, I guess. And I said it to you. That's exactly what promotion winning teams needs: luck. I mean, a bit of shambles, but also a bit of luck in there as well. It's strange how it's happened to the same team in the space of a few days, but not really. I mean, do I have any complaints? Well, the first one, yeah, it's a blatant dive, obviously. But this one, more of a penalty. But it's another one where they leave it just too late. They leave it so late on that when they score it, my respect for them and everyone's respect for them just goes down. But that's what promotion winning teams look like, and it's a shame for Middlesbrough. But those games you've got to win. Swansea are winning at the end of the day, and that's, like I'm going to say again, that's a promotion winning team if you're getting results like that, however way possible.
Yeah, you're right. That is the sign of a promotion winning team. It definitely is, and that's what people say a lot of the time. I think, and I won't deny that, but I think there's also times when you see luck with certain sides. And is this them winning games late on through just sheer hard work and grit, or has it been gifted to them? Is the thing we have to ask. And it may seem like a very bitter Brentford fan here going, and it could well be, but the last two results I think are an absolute disgrace. They are absolutely disgrace. I watched the game against Stoke, pretty even game. Stoke looked like for a lot of the time they would like to seem more likely to score, but Swansea obviously did grow back into the game as well. The dive was a blatant dive, should never be a penalty in a million years. You see that in every single game up and down the country, every week, those sort of dives and trying to win a foul, and the referees very rarely fall for them. This time he has, and I have no idea why. So that's when Swansea obviously beat Stoke 2-1 in the week. And then later on you have, against Borough, you have the Borough goal disallowed. It's a game in which Borough, if anyone was going to win it, it should have been Borough. They have a perfectly good goal disallowed, but Neil Warnock has obviously vented his anger at. They have that perfectly goal, and then the penalty. And to be honest, when I first saw the slide in the replays, I thought, that's a penalty. That probably is a penalty, isn't it? That's just annoying. I've looked back, and Regan, that is not a penalty. George Saville clearly gets his boot to the ball, and then Jake Bidwell comes in and more kicks George Saville. So yeah. They would, out of every decision we could have possibly gone for Swansea in the last two games, has gone for them, and it could be significant come the end of the season. If they hadn't won that game, they'd still be below Brentford on goal difference, with their one game in hand, obviously. And then the pressure's on, isn't it? And it's easy to say, I know every team's going to get decisions go for them at some point, and every team will get decisions going against. But it does feel like Swansea are the team where the luck's with at the moment. And for me personally, you've got to see that run out at some point, and it often does. It often does. The luck does run out, and then we will see if they do have the grit and determination to win games, like they have had for most of the season. But very much of late, Swansea have got out of a very poor patch that they were going to go through. They just obviously conceded all those goals to Huddersfield. I forget the other game they Bristol City, sorry, conceded all those goals. I feel like Swansea are in their blip at the moment and are getting away with it, which is fair play to them. It may see them go up, but it's not right. The decisions that have been made, I think everyone knows that. Everyone was getting annoyed at the Football League. It felt like midweek was just Brentford fans being bitter Brentford fans. I think Saturday triggered a reaction from a lot of people saying what is going on here with Swansea, and you saw the national sort of Twitter fans of journalists and everything covering that and saying how much of a poor decision it was. So Steve Cooper decided getting very lucky, but with luck you can get promotion, as Regan has mentioned. Unfortunately for Borough, it meant they lost out on the points as well, which is vital to their playoff race, especially if goings on around them. Regan, another team obviously in the top 2 promotion race, but we haven't mentioned as much recently is Watford. Now, Watford beat Nottingham Forest 1-0. You could probably have called that a score mile off. It was a pretty dull game, but Watford won it, and that is the way Watford tend to do things. Regan, me and you haven't really taken them seriously, the top 2 side. Do we have to start doing that now?
Yes, yeah, they are now a top 2 side. They've got the results to show it. I mentioned it on our Twitter post. Follow us if you haven't. That we don't give out of the teams we talk about in the top 6. I think Watford's the team we don't speak about that we speak about the least. And now they're putting they're putting you and me on notice, but they're putting the whole league on notice just to say we're still here. We may not be top, but we're in that place now, and we've got the form. And even though, like I said in the video, Nottingham Forest, I'm still not convinced by them. So it's not an amazing win. It's still another 3 points on the board. And with Swansea, like you said, in a blip, if you can call it that, Brentford haven't played in a week, and then obviously they're in a bit of a patch as well. And then there's 6 points clear of Reading. You have to say the momentum is with Watford, and I think, like you said, I think it's time we take them seriously and seriously put them in the top 2 picture, because that's where they are at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, apologies. I completely agree. And I think the thing with Watford is that do they have the know-how? Do they have the know-how? And I think that's what it is with Watford. They've never been a team that's blown anyone away particularly, but they have the experience in that team. We've always said they've got the quality as well. It's just whether we thought they were too much of a team, or whether they were finding any sort of rhythm. It feels like they're finding that rhythm now. And yeah, I think they've got the know-how, Regan. And although a team that hasn't particularly blown my socks off this season, as we know, I've rarely mentioned, they're winning games, and that's all you got to do. And my thoughts now have switched, and with the luck I've seen Swansea getting, potentially I feel like that's got to drop off at some point, as we've seen luck does often drop off. Watford are the team I fancy at the moment. For the first time this season, it will obviously change from here until the end of the season. There's going to be lots of chopping and changing at the top of the table. But other than Norwich, yeah, I think Watford are looking pretty good. They're coming right at the end of the season. You've got to say fair play to how they've coped defensively. Ben Foster is a big character in that dressing room. He's a very good keeper, and they've been without him for a while now, and it doesn't seem to have phased them at all. And the other thing I'd probably say is strength and depth you've got there at Watford. You have a Premier League squad with some Championship players in, but it's a squad that they can make a few changes, and apart from maybe Ismail Assar and a couple of others, you wouldn't say the replacements particularly any weaker, which is I think Watford's biggest strength there. They've finally found the rhythm under their manager, and it's looking good for Watford at the moment. Obviously beating Chris Hughton's Forest 1-0. Pretty boring game. Messina scored a goal. And then they shut out, and Forest didn't really ever look like getting back into it. So fair play to Watford. Regan, the final game we want to talk about is down the other end of the table, and that is, well, depends how you look at it, from what side you're looking at it. We're looking at it at the perspective of Sheffield Wednesday, who lost 3-0 to Reading. Wednesday, Regan, that's Darren Moore's first 2 games in charge now. lost to Rotherham, who we will get onto, and losing to Reading comfortably. They're starting to be cut adrift, aren't they? 7 points from safety. Do you think they've left themselves too much of a mountain to climb?
I think they left themselves a huge mountain even before the Darren Moore appointment, and I'm not for all these excuses saying, oh, they lost to Rotherham because it's Darren Moore's first game in charge, and we only lost to Reading because we had 10 men for 70 minutes. Let's be honest, I would have been shocked if you got anything out of the Reading game with 11 men. I think they need to stop making excuses, and to see some fans to think, oh, we still got a chance. Yeah, you and me both said that. Well, we need to. I don't think Darren Moore's a quick manager. He's not a very impact now manager. I think he needed a few more weeks, and maybe in a few weeks we see changes in results. But like you alluded to, results need to come quickly because like you said, they're being cut adrift. They're 7 points away from Birmingham, who occasionally do get results. 7 points, especially when you're down there. I'm not sure of their entire fixture list, but I don't recall them playing the bigger teams twice already this season. So I'd imagine they've got quite a few against the top 8, for example, left. You need to start winning games as the games are coming very, very quick now. And when you look at a team like Rotherham, who, like you said, we'll get on to, by the time this next week's over, they're going to have, I think, 3 or maybe even 4 games in hand. They might even still be above them, so they could be cut even further adrift, and it could just be too little, too late for everything Sheffield Wednesday. Because once again, it's more excuses, and they're all bite and no bark.
I think that's exactly the issue you touched on with Darren Moore, and me and you aren't against the appointment. Particularly, we think it could be a decent long-term solution. He's a steady manager. However, you're right. There's no impact now. There's no impact now, and impact now is what Wednesday need. 7 points cut adrift. Results looking poor. They lost to 10-man Rotherham. Not good enough. You can't do that. You cannot do that if you want to stay in this division. And I don't see the boost coming from anywhere. They look like a point under Neil Thompson that they might be getting somewhere here. And then it's like the recent results week have been absolutely terrible. There looks like no sort of performance levels either. It just seems that they let games coast them by, and they were only really in that Rotherham game because they had 10 men and because Rotherham sat back and allowed them to play. They coast through games. They don't impact. I remember watching, like I said, they did the same against Reading. They did it against Brentford. They didn't offer a thing. Jordan Rhodes up front didn't touch the ball, barely. I don't remember. I think they had a shot in the first 20 minutes. I don't remember them having one after that. It's just coasting through games. And it may not look particularly absolute shambles at the back. It may not. But these are players who are talented players. Once they don't have an awful squad, it doesn't look like they're completely falling apart. So maybe there's, from the outside world, you just don't see this big crisis. But when you look at it, Wednesday are going to get relegated. They are going to get relegated unless something big changes. We've yet to see from Darren Moore. I think he has to get a result in the next 2 games, or that's it. That's curtains for Sheffield Wednesday, I'm afraid. But yeah, it's looking very poor for them. This isn't just another team who's in a relegation. This is a club. If they go down to League One, they're in some serious trouble. They've been down there before in recent years, and it's not a nice place to be. We've seen the likes of Leeds United down there before, and Norwich, and Sunderland right now, Ipswich. You're not guaranteed to come straight back up. And a club like Sheffield Wednesday should not be in League One. I hate saying that. I am very much the influence for no club, no fans deserve to be anywhere. But really, on infrastructure, should Sheffield Wednesday be in League One, the third tier of English football? No, it shouldn't. And it looks like there's going to be that. And maybe that's why Wednesday brought in Darren Moore. Maybe they thought they couldn't see themselves staying up, and they're planning for League One, and he was doing a great job with Doncaster. You could potentially look at it from that perspective. In terms of Rotherham, who we mentioned, obviously didn't play on the week because of, we want to just mention the COVID problems they are having. A COVID outbreak within the squad. First one in the Championship for quite some time now. It felt like we were past that within football anyway. Missed game against Brentford postponed, game against Luton in midweek postponed, and now Regan has just announced it is being postponed against Coventry next weekend. Regan, what do you think the repercussions of this are for Rotherham? Is this just making everything even harder for them to stay up?
Definitely, yeah. Because like I mentioned briefly, that once every game's been played, etc., compared to teams around them, Rotherham may have 4. I mean, they might even have next week postponed if it continues like that. So by the end of it all, they may have 5 games to play, and to be level on games with everyone. And there's not a lot of the season left to play, and that might just be when there's no midweeks. There's going to be a Tuesday. They might even go to a Saturday, a Tuesday, a Thursday. I don't know how it's going to be played, and if they want to fit all these games in. And for a for not a huge Rotherham team, it must be said, and not a very experienced Rotherham team, it's going to be a really difficult task, especially after when they get in halfway through those games. For example, they're the crunch times. You need to get these results. And I feel like, especially with the tight fixture schedule that will come upon them, you just need to get results. And I fear that if it's one loss and it's a really heartbreaking 90-minute loss, could carry on to the next game in 2 days or in 3 days, and then it goes 3 days, another loss, and then after all that, your 5 games you had in hand will mean absolutely nothing. So it's a huge mountain to climb, and I feel sorry for them because it's not really their fault, but that's just how it goes in the league this moment. And let's just hope, because like you say, we like Rotherham, we want them to stay up, but yeah, it's a bit of a mountain to climb for them.
I think you made a good point there about the squad size, and maybe for other clubs. I mean, for every club in the Championship, this would be an issue. We've seen the amount of injuries. We've seen how this tight schedule has affected some sides. But Rotherham in particular, like you said, very small squad, had injury concerns anyway. Now they have this COVID outbreak. Will some people have long-term effects of the COVID? The playing of, if they have to play 3 games in a week every week, if that's going to have to happen, Rotherham aren't. Are they just going to have to reserve their energy and pick games where they're going to go all out for, and pick games where they think, well, we might have to relax in this one because we don't think we're going to get the points in it anyway? And that's obviously a very dangerous tactic to take, because Rotherham aren't a team with the quality to just be able to go, we'll win that one or lose that one. You can't pick when you're going to win a football match. And it looks very bleak for Rotherham indeed on that front. And I hope everyone there gets better soon and they can get back to playing games. On a brighter note, Regan, or is it a brighter note? We will find out. Predictions. Obviously, we did predictions on the social media on Twitter at PodcastFTT. If you ever want to see them and you're wondering where is Champ Talk, our predictions were on there this week. Regan, how did we do?
I just about made it on to Twitter this week because God knows what was happening, but we got it up there eventually, and it was a good week, unless your name was Regan, because it wasn't great. It was I remember the lead was like 22. I went, oh, walking, and now I've lost like 6 of the last 7 weeks. I was like, okay, maybe not then. But I'm not losing too much ground. You've got like 6 game weeks left, and you're still 16 behind, so it doesn't matter. For people who didn't watch our Twitter video, I'll quickly run through the ones we did get right. We both got Watford to beat Nottingham Forest. We both got Barnsley to beat Birmingham, Norwich to beat Luton, Reading to beat Sheffield Wednesday, Stoke to beat Wickham, and once again, you said Swansea, and it's another case where I backed against Swansea, and I was like, yes, I've done it, they've equalised, but no. And that gave you the week, which was 6-5, and overall, if you want to put the graphic now, there it is, it's 168 to 184.
Silver linings, as they say, Regan. Silver linings. That Andre Ayew penalty meaning Bill wins the predictions this week. Wow. You can see I am overjoyed. And then, Regan, it's time to get the predictions for the midweek games. There's only a few. Remember, we will be back with another episode of Champ Talk later in the week. We're previewing the full fixture list at the weekend. But first, let's do these games that are coming in midweek. We have 3 of them, Regan. And due to obviously Rotherham, Luton being postponed, the first one does involve Swansea. It's their final game in hand again over Brentford. How's it going to go? Blackburn versus Swansea at Ewood Park.
I don't know why I did this, but earlier I watched the Tony Moby press conference. I must have been extremely bored,
Yeah,
and
you must.
there's obviously something around, the club that Adam Armstrong is. He's going to be he's going to be one of the top targets Premier League sides in the summer, etc. I'm not sure if that's an excuse
Linked
for
to,
saying that. This is why he's not scoring recently, etc. Even though he scored at the weekend.
linked to
Um,
United in the week.
Blackburn. Yeah, very true. Yeah, Blackburn are back to winning ways, but the Swansea have got too much luck on their side at the moment, and even though I do think it will run out, I don't think it will be here. So I'm going to say Swansea are going to win.
Yeah. So obviously, you know what? It's hope. It is hope, and I mean the luck, the way things are going for Swansea. Even if they're playing badly, they're winning at the moment. Blackburn, poor form. Apart from beating Millwall, they did get back to winning ways. I'm going to go optimism, Regan. I'm going to go draw. Yeah, there's not much logic behind this one, and I'm afraid it is pure gut and hope that is getting me through this one. But I'm going to go for a draw at Ewood Park between Blackburn and Swansea. QPR versus Wickham at Loftus Road. Regan, is it as simple as a QPR win? Wickham obviously getting battered by Stoke. QPR winning at Ashton Gate rather convincingly on the weekend.
Yeah, I think this would have been a lot harder to call if QPR had lost that game. But like you said, it's very, very comfortable at the end of the day. So I think it's going to be another week where we're both going to be back in QPR, which is strange to say.
Unfortunate to say, but it is the truth. I am going for QPR as well. And finally, Regan, that is the predictions already over and done with. We're going to go with Barnsley versus Derby County as the Wednesday night game. Barnsley finally in the top six, Regan. It is no longer on points per game. It is no longer, will they make it, won't they? They're in the top six and they're playing a Derby side of a few weeks ago, you would have said a tougher test, but they're on some poor form at the moment. Are Barnsley going to keep up their playoff push?
Yes, they are. I'm going to back them as well. I don't think they're going to leapfrog Reading and go into fifth, because to do that, they'll have to win 8-0, and I don't think that'll be possible. But
We'll
Barnsley going to win. They can't.
won't we? We'll stick at
Yeah,
seven.
they come up against Derby. They come up against Derby at a bad time, and Barnsley are beating teams on good days. So I think they'll be pretty untroubled by Derby.
Yep, I'm going to go for Barnsley as well. Alex Mowat within the goal. Midfielder who had a tough time at Leeds United, sort of moved down to Barnsley, moved around. And you thought, is he ever going to realise that potential that he was gifted to him and Lewis Cook in midfield for Leeds United, if you remember, quite a few years ago? No, he's picked up some form and he's doing well at Barnsley. And who would have thought he might make the Premier League with another Yorkshire club? Also, shout out to DK up top, who is absolute thunderous strike on the weekend. Throwing out the Fortnite dances, he's brought some of that. He's brought that American meme to the Championship, is what you could say. But he can keep up the Fortnite dance if he's banging in the goals. So Barnsley obviously on track to stay in the playoffs, and they will beat Derby County as well. Anyway, that is the end of this our short predictions, and that is the end of this shorter edition of Champ Talk. Regan, if they enjoyed the video, what have they got to do? They've got to like it. They've got to subscribe to the From the Terrace Podcast YouTube channel. Leave us a rating on iTunes. Follow us on Spotify. Follow us on the socials. You know, we all know you're in your house, you're bored. What else you got to do? You might as well go to the From the Terrace Podcast Instagram, Facebook page, Twitter, and see some tweets, posts that are not very intellectually stimulant. They are boring. They are no. Well, this isn't a good plug. This ain't a good plug. Anyway, if you did enjoy the video, do all of that, please, and we'll see you in the next. Regan, what we're gonna do? We'll see you in the next.
Way to sell it.
Champ Talk.